Hello there everybody and welcome to a new video for Age of Wonders 4. In this one, I got a patch preview for you. Yesterday, Triumph has opened up the open beta for the Watcher update. I think it is the complete Watcher update, and we have a lot of balancing changes in that one. I am well aware of the fact that we're currently talking about something that is not finalized, so some of these things, the numbers or such that I offer up in this video might be subject to a change, and if anything gets changed wildly, I will do another video. But I have summarized 10 of the biggest changes that we have to bear with, and I don't think too much of these things will actually change, even if Triumph might nudge some numbers still around. So let's get started. Number one, the research will get a rebalance. So in the current version with a Wyvern update, it is just simply like that. Every tier of a tome comes with a certain research cost for the spells. Now things get changed. There is a research cost for your first tome, for your second, for your third, fifth, and so on. That means the research costs will grow in a total. So every subsequent tome that you pick up will be more costly than the previous one, no matter which tier. That nerfs backtracking tactics massively. I do appreciate that because in all honesty I found it so bonkers that after you have allocated 200 or 400, something between 300 or 400 knowledge points, you were able to just one turn research most of the things in the tier 1 tomes. That didn't feel healthy at all, because the tools in those tier 1 tomes are strong. So this is one big change. You cannot backtrack tomes as effectively anymore. I think that's a good and vital and healthy change, because this way we get less builds that are just able to perform in any aspect perfectly. Now then, number two, what also gets a change is the magic victory. We no longer have to build beacons and that's the end of the story. The new thing that we have to play around is we have to go and check out on the world for golden wonders. These here are now what we're looking for. You need a total of 3 annexed golden or world wonders. Then you need to slap a spell on them that you learn on tier 3 tomes by just having one, and then you need to cast a tier 5 spell to actually win the game. Being in tune with one of your next wonders gives you a research bonus, so this is now a fully fledged Odyssey kind of playthrough win style. So I've read that the total number of wonders that you needed to annex will scale with the size of the map. Currently, I read something like 3 wonders are necessary. I do appreciate that, because the old magic victory was so bad that many people I knew have actually turned it off, so the AI cannot construction rush them to death anymore. So I really think this is a very positive step forward. The only question is, how good will it be playable to have the control over these, because the same characteristics apply the moment we try to win the game. People hate us, but the independents won't rush you anymore. That's also a change with this patch. So let's move on to number 3. So underground and surface cities, well, how to put it? Underground and surface cities are now allowed to interact. That means surface cities can annex underground territory and vice versa. So as you see here, we also see these now permanently marked on the map. So for a city to annex subsurface territory, you just need to annex a underground passage, and then the zone of control can exude downstairs and vice versa. This is a brilliant change. This makes the interaction between surface and subsurface much more vibrant and interesting. I really looking forward to see what that'll bring to us. So number 4, let's bring the next thing, the next bitter pill. This is one point most people didn't like too much. So henceforth, we can only cast 1 map spell per turn. We can expand that to 2 spells per turn by building a thing here in the wizard tower. I have forgotten how it's called. I think it was a channeling chamber. And then we can cast up to 2 spells per turn. That's it. Also, the number of World map casting points got severely gutted all across the board. It is clearly noticeable that the way of balancing that is tried to be attained here is by making the spells here much more limited and less spammable. While I do agree that it sounded very, very unhealthy that some players have spammed out low tier 1 spells like damage spells like 5 times a turn more because they had the spell points, I am not too much of a very big fan of that solution. I think we could just say 3 spells per turn and we're good at that, or we do make a limit for the map spells and change and divide something between the summons. Currently, this feels a little bit heavy-handed, and most people didn't like that change too much. So we'll see where that'll lead. Because there is another thing here: the total amount of casting points got, like I said, limited by the fact that the tomes now give all just 5 points. Back then, the tier of tomes has increased the amount of casting points you got. The Wizard King only gets extra casting points every second level, and that alone is really a severe reduction. So, if you can get extra world map casting points somewhere, they got way more precious with the next update. Let's see how the numbers will change, though. I somehow foresee a slight change in point number 4. Point number 5 is another wonderful thing. I personally deem it wonderful. So far, summons could happen wherever we wanted. Now, summons can only be aimed around your own cities and around the zone of control of your ruler, end of the line. This has been made to prevent spamming new armies wherever you wanted to. So we now have only 1 or 2 spells per turn and limits where we can slap down our summons. I do appreciate this change in so far, as I am still allowed to put my leader on the line to have that extra gimmick, to have a army that can be refilled on the fly, but it is no longer a permanent thing. As a point of positive and constructive criticism, I would love if heroes could acquire this trait as something deep, deep down either the magic or the support skill line. Basically, a trait that allows them to have summons around them. This is an investment. It doesn't reflect any power up on the battlefield, but would make a lot of people happy. Now then, number 6, hero upkeep. So, in the past, you were always able to recruit more heroes than you had cities. You just need to press that button, and then you can just recruit somebody. In the current version, it's 30 gold per hero over cap. This has been changed because 30 gold are way too dirty cheap for a hero. Now, in this current open beta, it is grossly, or no, it's 15% of your gross income, sorry. So 15% of your gross gold income. So that makes extra heroes damn costly now, isn't it? So I don't know what to think about it. I do appreciate that Hero Ball is no longer a viable strategy, because there has been that strategy in town to just buy those heroes instead of units, because, 30 gold is just a cheap unit that levels endlessly, or not endlessly, but up to level 20. So I think that was a necessary nerf after all. Number 7. This is a little bit of a tinier thing, but it's worth knowing. Hero item Limbo. So before this new version, it was like, if I unequipped that Dread Spider, I could have equipped it the same turn to somebody else, and then I could equip it to somebody else, and somebody else, and somebody else, and that Dread Spider could have gone all over the world in just one freaking turn. That's no longer the case. If you unequip an item, it's locked for a turn, end of the story. But I think this is very important to know, because if you were using these strategies, you might be now a little bit angry, and if you weren't using these strategies, well, you now know that you have to wait a turn until you can re-equip those items on somebody else. Number 8. So, ranged combat got a pretty slick and nasty nerf. So, the optimal range for ranged units got reduced. That sounds now very technical, but, every one of these attacks has a range here like that, and the optimal range has been now reduced by 1. That means accuracy Fall off begins earlier. That means your archers now have to stand one grid closer to have their optimal accuracy. That means your archers are weaker now. Or you have to put them to more risk to have the same output. I think this was necessary. I think this is quite an elegant attempt to fix up things, but I must say, due to the fact that friendly fire occurs so darned often, I don't like it. I hope that there is a consideration that friendly fire can get handled differently, because now archers get more and more of a nuisance when the accuracy goes below 50%. They end up smacking my dudes way too often, and that just, I don't like that trend where this goes towards to, because this only makes one thing much, much better: battle mages, because they won't accidentally fry your people. They either hit or miss, and that's something I hope that will get addressed. At the same time, I do appreciate the archer nerf, It is a necessary thing, but friendly fire now got upgraded in a very, very unpleasant way. Also, the high culture archers got nerfed. They don't get an accuracy bonus anymore on their awakening, and their mages don't get the same trait anymore. They are now allowed to blind people, I think, but I don't remember anymore that closely. It's one of the minor changes. So, number 9, let's get on over to the bigger changes. Tomes have been changed, and there are some wild changes. So first off, I want to go over the smaller changes. So Tome of Evolution has become a little bit upgraded here, or changed. So Youthful Rejuvenation now gives Resurgence to units with Evolve until the end of combat. So that means if they die, they just come back again. And the tier limit has been removed for Resurgence. That means you can now use this on your tier 3 dragons to save your lives. But it has been removed from the Rapid Evolution enchantment. Instead, your tier 1 and 2 units get Slip Away, which is basically an extra life per fight. If they die, they are displaced and come back with 15 temporary HP. So, all in all, these are really, really good changes. This is an upgrade. A slick one, a nifty one where you could overlook the fact that this spell has been massively upgraded now. I really like that. I really, really liked it. I think these tomes, they needed a little bit of an extra oomph. They weren't impressive enough as of yet. So, the next thing that has been changed, and that's the entire order line. I'm going to go over the major things. There are a lot of smaller things. So, first of all, what I totally appreciate, Legion of Zeal now gets applied to ranged units. I love this. I was so often not picking up the Tome of Zeal, even if it was synergistic with my strategy, only because of this. So I really, really appreciate that change. Also, where is it at? Inquisition. Come on, game. Why are you always so difficult to read here? So, Tome of Inquisition. We have now a new thing, the Inquisitor's Mark. This has been completely reworked, so it now has a chance to inflict condemnation, weakness, and slow. I love this. I see so many new uses for alone this combo here. It's awesome for the dark culture because of the weakness application. It's also awesome for ice builds because of the slow. I really do see a lot of goodness in this in these changes. We also have a few changes in the other order books, but that's mostly cost changes, nothing too big in terms of gameplay impact. There is one thing though that really, really made me raise an eyebrow. The amplification pylon got buffed, so it is now harder to kill, and it also has a couple of extra buffs where I was like, did we really need more extra goodness on the amplification tome? I really didn't understand it. I mean, we have now 50% extra damage for tactical summons. You don't see it here reflected in the tooltip yet. And I just didn't understand it. So, and melee attackers now have a chance to get stunned and a slight damage reflection when they attack this thing. Wasn't this tome already bonkers enough? Do we really need even more on that? I don't know. I mean, okay, amplification pylon is now more attractive. I guess it needed that. I disagree on that a bit. And last but not least, the Tome of the Horde had an a adjustment on Spawnkin, so now your heroes don't get the 20% damage buff anymore. I think that was a pretty okay thing because your heroes now get 10% evasion, and at the end of the day, I don't know if that's really a nerf for the heroes because evasion is a very, very powerful trait, and since we have now a lowering of the total power of ranged attacks in general, this might be really, really powerful at the end of the day. Okay, so number 10, that's there are lots of smaller changes in the tome section as well. I put a link down there for the entire patch notes for you to read. I want to get on over to number 10 now. Dragon changes. So the one dragon army strategy got gutted basically by two steps. First off, the auras don't give the dragon their buffs anymore. So that means nature aura now gives regeneration only to allies, not to the dragon himself anymore. I am personally a little bit sad because I loved playing that, but it was severely unhealthy, and I think it was necessary for it to go. As an upgrade all over the board, though, we have now powered up auras all over the way. The nature aura now has decay, which is amazing because that's a pretty powerful damage over time thing. The other auras, like shadow, has now a chance to freeze the enemy. There's a lot of the other auras got powered up. It's not only a nerf on the nature aura, but you know, the nature aura got something back as well. The idea here is pretty clear. I think Triumph wants to make the other auras more attractive, and that is a success. And that also means that it's way harder now to have one dragon that can kill just entire army stacks on his own, which was a necessary step. That was silly. It was fun, but silly. So the other thing that has happened now is that your dragon gets a massive experience debuff if he's killing stacks alone. It is not impossible. It has not been made impossible to do the one dragon army thing. We have now, though, a higher action point cost of the dragon breath. This was also another tool that was really just well for kiting the enemy endlessly. So we have less experience, we have a less potent nature aura, but it is not impossible either. Your dragon just doesn't level to level 20 that quickly anymore, and you, most importantly, don't get rewarded anymore for doing it all solo, because that just felt a little bit weird. I mean, sure, some people now argue that it's really bad because the whole idea of a dragon ruler is to have a super combat unit from the get-go. You do opt out of many, many other things, like the powerful Wizard King extras, like over channel. You don't have that. You don't have the extra casting points. Believe me, I do feel that. By that time, I'm maining dragons, and I really do notice that nothing gets done anymore. And you also don't gain the bonus from a public hero. So I don't know if these nerfs gone too far. I don't think so. I don't think so. You still have one crazy strong hero unit, but we'll see how. I have to check it out myself more closely until I can know if they overshot the mark or not. There's tons of other changes in it, like AI adjustments and many, many other things, but I tried to summarize the biggest 10 here in this video as good as I can. Like I said, I put a link down there for the entire patch notes, and if you are a data nerd like me, go down there and read them, because it's really worth a read. I do appreciate the direction this game goes. I just hope that we're going to see a little bit less nerfs in the future, and a couple of extra power-ups on the ends that just don't shine too much. I'm looking at things like the Tome of Scrying, which is just not too attractive at all, or I rarely pick too many of, like Tome of Winds here. The Zephyr Archer even got a slight nerf on the damage on the Zephyr shot. So there are a couple of tomes in the game currently that are just a little bit underperforming, and I really hope that we're getting that we're reaching one day a level where those tomes are all that freaking good that you don't know which ones to pick because they're all so good. That feeling is a little bit lost currently, but I'm positive about the future. Anywho, Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Leave me your comments, your thoughts about that patch. I really like to have a discussion here if you guys want to, but just keep it simple and friendly. That's all I ask for you, from you. And leave a thumbs up or consider subscribing. I'd be delighted if you did so. Have a wonderful day and see you soon.